Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Heather Hansen, and I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement at University of Colorado Boulder's Leeds School of Business. We're excited to have Kendra Prospero today presenting on the secrets of finding work you love for today's webinar. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, if you have any questions now or during the presentation that you'd like to ask Kendra, please send a question through the chat interface. I will monitor questions as they are submitted, and Kendra will respond to them throughout and at the end of the presentation. As a reminder for optimum audio quality, we do have everyone on mute except for myself and our speaker. If you experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please notify us through the chat interface and one of our support specialists will touch base. Lastly, a link to access the webinar recording will be sent to all registrants tomorrow, along with a survey link and supplemental resources from today's presentation. Now I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Kendra Prospero founded Turning the Corner in 2011 to help people connect to work they love and to end suffering in the workplace. She helps job seekers find jobs they're passionate about and helps companies fully support their employees. Kendra's own career path took some unexpected turns. She was supposed to be a musician but became a coder. She moved into a project manager role at IBM for years, but felt she was struggling in a career that left her dying on the vine. After developing her own process, she is now sharing her true gift as a CEO and founder of one of the few firms in the nation that supports both job seekers and businesses. Welcome, Kendra, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everybody. Great. It's so great to be here. Heather, thank you so much for inviting me to be on your stage and to be able to share what we know will help people, love Monday mornings again. So I want to start off with just a little bit of a backstory, and then I want to get to know you guys a little bit better as well. So imagine this with me. So it's 2007, and I have just been named to become the manager of a fairly large department at IBM. Now, it's been informally announced. Nobody really knows except some of my closest colleagues, and then, of course, my management team. And so prior to the formal announcement that was going to go out to the company, they wanted to test me one more time to make sure I was really ready for this. So they gave me this huge project. I had this big budget, a big team, and a really aggressive schedule of a project that was pretty hard to pull off, and I knocked it out of the park. It was awesome. I was on cloud 9. Matter of fact, to this date, I still sometimes get feedback that this event that we put on was one of the best events I'd ever seen, which was amazing. So the next week, I got sent to my final class in management training. And prior to going to this class, I was invited, because this event had gone so well, I was invited to have dinner with some of the IBM executives, including the CEO. So Monday morning, I just get on that plane with my ego all inflated. I felt great. I show up to class, and I get a phone call on Wednesday from my manager. And she says, well, we've decided that we're not going to make you a manager. I was crushed. And not only did I not get the management position, but when I finally came back from that class, they had demoted me. They had even moved my office. I no longer had an office, but I was essentially in what was the equivalent of a cubicle. I completely had my career get derailed at that moment. To this day, I still do not know what it was exactly that I did and what happened. But I will tell you this. I was in a situation where I desperately needed a new job, and I could not find anyone to help me. I could not find anyone to pay attention to me, and I knew that there was something seriously wrong with the market at that time. So now, this was years ago, but I decided at that point that something needed to change for sure. So let me pause here. I'm going to continue with this story because it does luckily have a happier ending, but I definitely want you to know that I've been in your shoes where I've been in a job that I've felt pretty miserable in, but we now know how to help people connect with work that they love. So before I carry on, I want to actually get to know you guys a little bit better and know a little bit more about the audience here. So we are going to do a quick couple of questions here as a poll. So I'm going to hand it back over to Heather for a minute, and we're going to throw some questions up on the screen. Heather?
Sure. So we just launched a poll. The first question is, where are you currently in your job search journey? And we are going to be giving everyone about 15 more seconds to respond. Great. It looks like we already have about 50% of you. All right, a few more seconds here. Great. So we're going to go ahead and share those results. And it looks predominantly like 46% of the people on here are actively looking for job opportunities now.
Okay, excellent.
And equally tied for 16% are currently happy and not looking, or will be on the job search within 4 to 6 months.
Okay, excellent, great. All right, well, for those of you, mostly the majority of you that are actively on the hunt, then you should find this content very interesting here. So thank you so much for that. So Heather, we have one more poll. If you want to run the second one here, and then I'll move on to the content.
Absolutely. So the next question is, what is the biggest challenge for you in the job search process? Great, we've already gotten plenty of responses. We'll give you a few more seconds here. All right, with 95% of you responding, we'll go ahead and close this and share results. And it looks like 51% of you do not know what you really want to do, which I'm sure Kendra will be talking throughout today's presentation, with the second leading answer being finding the best job opportunities for me.
Okay, excellent. Well, great, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate that. Okay, so let me throw in a couple really scary statistics for you to get kind of launched here, because it's pretty much aligned with what we see from this poll. So one of the scary statistics has come out in that, well, let me give you a little bit of backstory. Over the last 2 years, about over 15 million people have been polled around their overall job satisfaction and how they're doing and how engaged they are. And people are self-reporting that they are fairly unhappy in their jobs. Matter of fact, 2 to 1, they're reporting that they're fairly unhappy. And actually a full 70% of Americans are reporting that they actually hate their job, hate their job. That's their own word that they're using. That's not Kendra's word. And then the other statistic that's pretty scary is that people are self-reporting also that that not only are they not very engaged in their work, but a full quarter, almost a quarter of the population is reporting that they're actively disengaged, which means this: they show up for work and they get on Facebook, which is terrible. Or they show up for work and they go hang out with a colleague and, don't actually get any work done. So this is terrible for the American economy. This is terrible for productivity in general. We need people who are happy and are thriving in their jobs. And that is really what we are and what our mission is at Turning the Corner. So let me give you a little bit more of the happy ending part of this overall story here that I started. So I am Kendra Prospero. I am the CEO and founder of Turning the Corner. We are a Colorado-based organization right now that helps individuals connect with work that they love. We help do all the things that we know are going to accelerate a job search and help you get into a place where Monday morning is enjoyable again. But what makes us really unique is not only are we on that side helping individuals, but we are also on the other side helping companies. And so when we tell you what you need on a resume, we're saying this not just as like a well-meaning opinion or something we've maybe read in a book, but we are telling you this because we actually work with companies. We are doing hiring for companies. We are also fractional HR. We offer fractional HR support. So we really understand like what's the struggle for hiring managers. We also do management training. So we do all of the things on the company side that we know lead to high engagement. And we then can teach that to you as an individual or as maybe what we would call a job seeker. Now, I opened up this business actually back in 2011. So what happened after my story ended a minute ago was that I ended up getting a new job. Now, this job was a little bit different than what I expected. I actually ended up getting pregnant, and I had a little girl who's now 8 years old. But what this did for me is it made me kind of take a little bit of a pause from that high-powered career that I had started. I actually took a leave of absence from IBM, and then I went back to work part-time, which was amazing. But at one point, even in that journey, I decided, okay, it's time for me to move on. So I reached out to a good friend of mine who was also a colleague of mine, and I told her, I said, I've had all this trouble finding someone who will pay attention to me. Like, I don't know how to find another job. And she looked at me and she goes, Kendra, why are you doing that? She said, we don't come to you for that kind of advice. Why are you worried about your job search? You just need to open up a business and take all the advice that you've been giving all of us and actually turn it into a business. And I thought about what she said, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't really put those two things together, but she was right. At IBM, while I was a coder and while I had much more of a technical job, one of the things I loved doing on the side is I loved mentoring the new employees that we had come into our business. And so I did that for many, many years. I was practically one of the only mentors we had. And I really enjoyed that conversation of helping people connect with what they're great at and then turn it into a job in the larger IBM company. And so I kind of took her advice to heart. And I thought back to 2007 when I, derailed my career and reached out to recruiters and no one called me back. And I thought, maybe I'll open up a business that truly does help individuals as well as helping companies. And that's what we did. And now, 6 years later, we have helped thousands of people and individuals. We've helped dozens of companies. We've placed hundreds of people. We just got named as one of the fastest growing companies in Colorado. I was named as a 40 under 40 by one of our local publications, by the hair of my chinny chin chin, for sure. I turned 41 like 4 days after the application was due. But anyway, we're being recognized as a great organization that can help a lot. And for me now, and this is the key thing, and this is the happy ending, is that I left my job at IBM, left them on great terms, opened up this business, and now I am truly doing what I am supposed to do. At IBM, part of the reason I was so excited for that job is because I couldn't wait to inspire and to lead a team, and now I get to do that. So I'm regularly on stages like this one you see on the screen, or get to do webinars like this, and then I'm also leading this amazing team. So this is actually an old picture now. Our team has almost doubled in size since this picture was taken. But we have this amazing team that helps me as well. We all do career coaching. We all do resume writing. We all do recruiting. We all do HR support. So we are all kind of sitting on both sides of that fence. So what I'm going to give you here today now, diving in more of the content, is this. I'm going to give you a little bit of a plan for how you can manifest the work that you were truly designed for. I'm also going to give you a formula for those of you that are actively on the job hunt, and for those of you that are about to do the job hunt. I want you to remember this formula because you'll know exactly what you need to do to accelerate your job search. And then lastly, I'm going to give you a little bit of an opportunity if you want to work with us or you feel like you need a little bit more time. This is an incredibly impersonal way to deliver this powerful content. So if you feel like you need to speak with with me or with someone on my team, we would love to talk with you, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. All right, so let's start. Here we go. So this first secret for getting a job that I know you will love is this, is you've got to realize that right now your dreams seem far away and you need to focus in on what they are. So what I want you to think about is why do you work? Why do you work? We all have an overarching reason that we work. And I want you to think of it as like a beacon of light off in the distance that is guiding you every day. I work because I want to make a huge difference. And every day, even my tough days, especially my tough days, when I get out of bed and I don't want to go to work, I think about the fact that my job lets me make that difference that I am deeply wired to make. So I want you to start kind of with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey said. Think about what is it that you really want out of your life relative to your work, and start making that a part of your daily ritual in terms of your job. So now I know we don't know each other that well, so I'm going to ask you to get maybe a little bit intimate with me here. But what I really want you to do is I want you to close your eyes for a minute and imagine yourself. Imagine yourself on the porch after your retirement party. And imagine what you are noticing about that retirement party. Maybe you didn't even have a retirement party, or I don't know what it is, but just take a minute to think about, what does that look like? Are you dreaming? Are you giving back? Are you handing down a business? What is it exactly that you notice about that retirement party? I know for some of you it may be way, way off in the distance. And if that's too far off in the distance, think about yourself maybe in 10 to 15 years from now. Do you want a family? Do you want to own a home? Do you want to be traveling the world? But you need to use that as your guidepost, as your guiding light way off in the distance. You need to know what that why is. Why am I working? So think a little bit about some of these questions. So when you think back on your life, what do you see? What do you notice? What do you want to feel about your work? What did your work do for you? How did it provide for your family? Can you describe maybe what a typical month might look like in like a retirement or maybe a kind of post-work environment? And then this last question is so key. What would you regret not having done in your life? Now, you may not do that tomorrow. You may not even do that in 5 years. But if you can start to think about the path for how you're going to get there, work, even crummy jobs, will start to make more sense as long as it's a part of that path for you. So as you think about that, and I know that was really brief, I'd love for you to maybe write down on a piece of paper in front of you, what did you notice? Well, these are the things that we hear from our clients. We'll hear things like maybe they are leaving behind a business, or maybe they are traveling the world, or maybe like my mission, it's, that they've made a difference. Or maybe it's a little bit that, something it doesn't have to be altruistic like those other things. It can be also, I've retired comfortably with my spouse and I'm living on the golf course and we look out every day over the golf course. That's a fabulous goal as well. But each one of those things mean the path that you need to take now may be a little bit different. I have a great client story. So one of the clients that came to me a while ago, he came and he was a financial planner and had done actually very well as a financial planner, which that's a pretty tough job. I mean, it's a pretty heavy sales job. You're doing a lot of cold calling on individuals. But he had just had a baby and it was time for him to move on because the hours were just crazy. And so he came to us as a client and we sat down and we ran this activity. And what he said is he said, well, I think I'm like leaving a business. I have this idea for a restaurant that I think would be so amazing. But I don't know anything about the restaurant business, so I've never really pursued it, which was it. That was the key. So we actually then laid out a career path for him that leveraged his sales experience and then got him kind of on this path to get into the restaurant business so that he can actually achieve this goal down the road. So anyway, that's kind of the way that sometimes this will play out for people. But here's what I definitely know, is that if you don't do this, some days that are the days that are really tough, if you don't know what that why is, they will be even tougher. But if you can connect with what that why is, why do you work? You have that long-term goal off in the distance, I promise you your days won't be as tough. So that's secret number one, is having that plan, that vision out in the future a little bit. So the second secret now is maybe a little bit more tactical. So the second secret is this, is that you just don't know what you need from a job. So here at Turning the Corner, we always ask the question, what do you need from a job? And we almost can even call them maybe the deal breakers. And so I want you to think about, what are your deal breakers? What are the things you absolutely need, or the things that you don't want at all? What are those things that are kind of uncompromisable? Maybe you're going to say things like, I absolutely need to be paid this certain amount or more, right? I can't go below that. If that's the case, don't go below that amount ever. Don't compromise on that. Or maybe you're going to say something like, I thrive when I'm my own boss. Or maybe you'll even say, like, I thrive when I'm on a team, or I thrive when there's a lot of collaboration. You're all going to have your own things that might come together that are going to be your own 4 to 6 things that you're probably going to need from a job. Now, let me actually say that again here. So what we have discovered after running this activity now, probably a couple, 500 or 600 times now, is that we have learned that everybody has about 4 to 6 things that they really need from a job. You have your own 4 to 6. I have my own 4 to 6. But the crazy thing is this, is that we kind of hear the same 20 things over and over. So we're not all that different from each other too, which this is something we teach to the companies because we want them to know that they have an ability to meet the needs for almost all their employees if they take the time to actually ask this question. But what I want you to do is I want you to ask the question of yourself. So we're going to do a little activity together here. All right. So first thing I want you to do is I want you to answer this question. Now, again, hopefully you have a piece of paper in front of you. We did send a handout ahead of time. So what I want you to do is I want you to write down what you think at least 2 of those needs are. We're not going to have time to be able to go through all of them right now, but let's do 2 together, and then hopefully you can do this activity with someone else in your life to finish out your other maybe 4 that you have. So the first question is this: what do you really need in a job to be happy? Some of the things I need, just to spark some of your ideas here, is that I need to believe in the mission of the company. I also need to know that I'm getting results. I also need to know I'm making that difference. And I need to have fun. And I need to like my colleagues. Those are the things that I really need out of a job. So what do you need? And write it down. Write down 2 needs. Need 1 and need 2. Okay, so now hopefully all of you got that. I see you're all back on 100% watching me. Thank you. So then the next question now, this is where things start to get really different between all of us. So the next question is this: how do you know that you have this? So for example, I will say another need I have, I didn't mention this one, is I need flexibility. So I have 2 young children, as you saw on the screen before. I need the ability to maybe run home at 3 o'clock and be home when they get home from school. I also need to know that, like, on the Mondays that they're out of school, that I have the flexibility to take that time off from work, or at least work from home. So I need flexibility. Now, we'll hear from other people that they need flexibility, but it might be more like, I need the ability to spread my 40 hours across the work week. Or in the case of my colleague Ginger, she'll say, I need to just know that I'm not clocking in and clocking out at like 8 a.m. and 5 o'clock at night. Like, give me the flexibility to know and treat me like a grown-up to be showing up for work when I need to be there. So you need to answer this question: how do you know you have this? And then the next question is then, if you have this, what does this do for you? And when you start answering these questions, you're going to realize that you do not want to compromise on this. And then the final one is sometimes comes in line with this previous question, which is, how does this make you feel? And so document this for each one of your needs. And then what I recommend you do is then you filter your current job through your needs and figure out, why are you not happy right now? And it's most likely the fact that you are compromising on probably 3 or 4 of your needs. And when you do that, we know you're going to be miserable and you're not going to be happy in your job. And we don't want that. We want you to be happy. So now I will tell you this: if you have 6 needs, or if you have more than 6, it's probably getting to be a bit too much. You really do need to be reasonable, right? We need to be reasonable with our jobs here. 6 is good. You can probably compromise on 1 or 2 of them just temporarily, or at least for a given reason. Like, for example, if you have that one of the things you need is you absolutely need to get 3 weeks of vacation a year, but then you find this dream job that is maybe for a small business that just doesn't have the ability to give 3 weeks, but they will do maybe 2 weeks, you might be willing to compromise on that for that experience of working with this small business for a short amount of time. But down the road, you're going to definitely want to find a way to negotiate having another week worth of vacation so that you're not compromising on that for too long. So here is a couple other, here's basically the words that we hear kind of over and over from the various people that we work with. So, right now I will tell you that probably the #1 thing we hear from individuals pretty consistently is flexibility. Almost everybody needs flexibility, and unfortunately, very few companies are really offering this. And so just between you and me, well, actually between me and the 100 of you that are on the call here, or 112 of you, we're working really hard to encourage companies to have more flexible environments. So hopefully you'll start seeing more of that activity actually turning into some results for the companies you're working with. But yes, so here's some additional ideas. But I would love to hear from you. So we're going to throw another poll up right now in just a minute here. But I would love to hear from you. What is your #1 need that you have, that you need from a job? So Heather, I'm going to turn it back over to you for a minute and throw this poll up.
Great, let me get this up. So here we go, the third poll. What is your most important need in a job? Similar to last time, we'll give you about 15 more seconds on this one. Great, look, so far we have 90% of you, giving you a few more seconds. All right, we'll go ahead and close that and share the results. So it looks like the top winner here was the flexibility, to your point, Kendra, with 44% of those saying that is the top need, with 3 quickly following, with another category, career growth, and salary.
All right, great. Yeah, I know we didn't give you a lot of options. That's the unfortunate thing with these polls, is we can't do a ton of options. So, okay, great. So here's what I definitely know, is that I absolutely know you cannot compromise on these values for too long, or you will be miserable in your job. Or if you are compromising and you're trying to hide that you're a little bit miserable, I I promise you probably something's going to happen, like you're probably going to derail yourself like I did, or you'll get let go. And if you're in a pattern of kind of getting let go from jobs, I want you to pay attention to that. And I want you to come back around to what is missing for you, because somehow that's showing up in these different jobs that you have. And there's nothing wrong with you. What's wrong is that you need to get that need met, and then you'll be happier. So commit to yourself to do that activity. And what I recommend you do, because it's a hard one to do on your own, is potentially take those questions that I gave you and sit down with someone that's a trusted friend or colleague or spouse or whoever it might be, and have them actually ask those questions to you. What do you need from a job? And just list out your top 6 right away. Then go back and take number 1 and have them then ask you that question. Okay, so how do you know you have this? And then they'll just write that down really fast. Okay, what if you have this, what does this do for you? Write that down. How does this make you feel? Have them actually facilitate that conversation with you, and then you'll get that whole activity done, and do it for each of your 4 to 6 needs that you have. And if you don't have a trusted colleague, of course you can call us. I mean, that's one of the things we do. This is an activity we run one-on-one with people. So feel free, of course, to reach out to us. So I hope that this is helpful so far. We've still got a lot more to get through here. But if you're finding this to be helpful, or if I'm going too fast or it feels too impersonal, I am going to make an offer here to you guys. If you want to we actually have a workbook we've written that is all this stuff that I've already covered so far. And we're offering it out here today to you guys. So right here on the screen is a phone number you can text. Text the word LOVE, L-O-V-E, all caps, to this number, and you will get the PDF version of this workbook that we're offering. This is also in the handout that we sent ahead of time as well, so I'm not going to leave this screen up for very long. So if you're scrambling to find a pen or your piece of paper or whatever to write the number down, it's also in the handout. And maybe, Heather, you can take this number and text it, and also in the chat box here. So, but anyway, if you want this workbook, you'll get it here in just a minute. But now, let's move on to secret number 3. What really stops you? What really stops you from finding a job you love or leaving a job that you hate? Is that you're afraid. Most of us are going to answer that. There's a fear. We're afraid. We're afraid that we're not going to be able to make it work, or we're afraid that we're not good enough, right? Or we've been knocked down in our job, or we have all these other things that just make us feel like, well, what if I can't make it work? Now, a lot of times what we hear from people is this. We hear that they just don't know what they're good at, and they don't know how to translate that into a skill. And actually, a lot of times people are calling us up and saying things like, I just need to overcome this weakness I have. I want you to stop that right now, because this is what I know about every one of you, even though I don't know any of you really, but I do know this. I have worked now with thousands of people. I'm not exaggerating that. I mean, between what I did at IBM and what I'm doing now, I mean, I have worked with thousands of people. And I have never met somebody that I didn't believe in once I knew them. So I know this about you. I know that you are perfect the way you are. You are perfect. But ask yourself, maybe this job just isn't perfect for me. It's not you needing to work on weaknesses. It is about you being great and owning what you're great at. Own that, okay? And don't focus so much on your weaknesses. We all have them. Matter of fact, one of the things I think I discovered about myself in this whole journey that I've had, leaving my job at IBM and coming here, is that one of my weaknesses is this. I am not good with detail. What that means is that I actually have a great brain for detail. I remember a lot of things, but I do not like the mundane tasks that have to occur day to day. I don't like routine at all. And so, as a matter of fact, I'm very triggered even by real routine forced on me. And so what happened with me at IBM is that I was in a highly detailed job. I was a project manager. I was a coder. I wasn't wired for that. And so I wasn't happy, and I can see why I kind of derailed myself a little bit, and that I wasn't that easy to manage because things were required of me to do, and I couldn't get them done. Or if I did get them done, I was so drained of energy that I wasn't, that much fun to be around. I know my husband would say that I wasn't that much fun to be around when I got home at night because I was so drained. So it's really critical that, number one, you connect with what you're great at, believe in that, and believe that you have something amazing to bring to the table. And then the next big piece of this is that I want you to utilize those strengths in your job. I know that people are happiest in a job when they are doing what they are hardwired to do. I was not hardwired to handle a lot of detail. I'm not hardwired to be sitting by myself in an office 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, coding, which is what I had to do. I like people. I like inspiring people. I like leading people, right? You guys can tell that from me, from a distance. I didn't see it in myself enough to just not choose a really dumb profession. But anyway, that's neither here nor there because it helped me, right? But I want you to connect with what you're great at and then make sure that that's a big part of the work that you're doing. And so it can be sometimes hard for us to actually, figure out what we're great at. There's assessments out there. There's the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, MBTI. I'm not a huge fan of that, but it's free. It's on the web. It's readily available. So some of you may have already taken that. There's DISC, D-I-S-C, is another assessment. We use this assessment here that's just so poorly named. I apologize, but it's called the OPQ32. It's from a company called CEB. They need help with their marketing. But we love this assessment because it helps us see at a very granular level how you're hardwired. We can actually see from 64 different competencies what you bring to the table. And then with this assessment, we can say, okay, you are somebody that is really creative. You're somebody who likes a lot of variety. You're somebody who's very caring, very outgoing. You would probably be really good in like a business development role, or maybe in a marketing strategy role or something along those lines. We can see that from this assessment. But why we love it is that it doesn't kind of put you in this box or this box like Myers-Briggs does or DISC. And so that's why we use this other assessment. But you also will probably have a sense of what you do well and what you're great at. And so I want you to connect to that. And one way to do that is to think of a time in the past when you have been really happy at work. What were you doing? Or maybe you were just happy doing an activity. Think of a time when maybe people were asking you for help, other things along those lines. And then write this down. We love to ask these questions, like what makes you feel really good about yourself? What are things, I already said this one, that, where people regularly ask you for help. If I had noticed that what my colleague had already noticed, that I was somebody who people came to and got career advice from regularly, I didn't really pick up on that was something I was doing a lot. But it was something where people were always asking me for that help. I could have maybe discovered that this is what I should have been doing, good 10, 15 years ago maybe. Who knows? Okay, so that's another great question. Or maybe another one is, what are activities that you engage in where time just seems to fly by? Sometimes that is when you're writing, or sometimes that's when you are working one-on-one with people, or maybe when you're training, or maybe when you're putting together proposals, or maybe when you're analyzing spreadsheets. There will be different things that each one of you do where time just flies by, and that's when you know you're getting closer and closer to some of your gifts and some of your strengths. Another way, though, is if you feel good about it, you can also ask your fans. Now, I use this word very deliberately, fan. If you feel uncomfortable asking someone for feedback and asking them what they think you're great at, they're not a fan. Don't ask them. Ask people who love you, who invite you in their life and want to give you that feedback, who care for you. And you'll start to see some patterns. Now, the only thing I don't like about you asking your fans is this, is that you might get a little bit more of your skill that you're good at. Now, skill is different than a strength sometimes. Ideally, there's that perfect intersection, right? There's that intersection of a skill and a strength, and that's your job, right? So like right now, I mean, you guys can be the judge of this, but I have a skill and a strength of presenting, and so I've got that alignment, and I get to do that in my job. And so, so just be cautionary. Like if they say something like if someone told me I was really detail-oriented, I'd probably barf, because I don't want to be detail. I'm not detail-oriented. I just have a mind for detail, but I'm definitely not detail-oriented. So I would probably say, oh, okay, thanks for that feedback, but I know that that's not one of my strengths. So kind of just, juggle that around a little bit. But what I know is this for sure, is that your future, is tied to your thoughtful choices today and also a belief that you definitely have a gift to give this world. So connect with your strengths, connect with that, and start turning that and having that become part of your job. So now, I want to kind of go back and review this again, just the 3 steps. Step number 1 is that you know the why. You know why you're working. What is that overarching mission? What's that beacon of light off in the distance? You also know what you need from a job, sort of more tactical, like what is it that you really need, and you're going to filter your current job through it to say thumbs up or thumbs down, that you're getting it or not. And then the third area is being in a job where you are leveraging how you're hardwired, what your strengths truly are. And here is why this is really fundamental to your overall job hunt. And so now, some of you may be ready to kind of dive a little bit more into, okay, great information, I could use more, but tell me how this impacts actually my job search. So I want you to know now that, because of the work we do and because of how many individuals we work with, but also because of the companies that we work with, we really kind of see where people stall out and why. So I'm going to put a chart up here, and I want you to look at these questions, and wherever you are answering no is where you need help. And so the foundation to a successful job hunt is this, is that you've got to know what you're good at, right? We just talked about that. It's truly the foundation of a successful hunt. If you do not know what you are good at and what makes you unique and special, your entire job search is going to get stalled. I promise. Because what happens is that I see it as a recruiter when we're interviewing. You can almost see it on a resume because it's incongruent in terms of some experiences. So you definitely need to know, what are you great at? But then the second question is, are you really clear on what it is exactly that you want to do next? And this is another area where people can kind of flop out a little bit, especially if you're not sure what the next steps are, right? So you might say things like, well, I could be in marketing, or I could go into project management. That's not going to work, folks. You got to say something very, very specific, like, I want to be a project manager for a medium-sized organization that is doing agile software solutions that needs somebody who's got a technical background but knows how to lead a team as well. Like, it needs to be that clear. And I know very few of you have that much clarity, especially if you're probably participating in this event. So, but you need to get that clear, because if it's an if or an or maybe one or the other kind of thing, your search is going to slow down. I'm not saying you won't still land something, but it's definitely going to be slowed down. So try to hang your hat on one thing you really want to do. And then what you need to do is start actively applying for jobs. That is one of the criteria that you have to have. I hate to say this, but jobs just don't manifest themselves. You do have to apply for them. Just kidding. But actually, we were working with someone a few weeks ago that hadn't applied for any jobs at all, and she's wondering why she hadn't gotten a job. Yeah, kind of have to do that effort. So have to actively apply for jobs. And if you are actively applying for jobs, you should be getting interviews. Now, this is something we hear all the time from our job seekers, is that they're applying for jobs right and left, but they're not getting any callbacks. And if that is the case for you, what's breaking down is your resume. Your resume is not working. It's not telling your story for some reason. So something is definitely going wrong. And what we usually see is that there's not alignment between what your resume says and what you're applying for. And so then the recruiter or the hiring manager opens up that resume and says, I don't see why they're a fit. Okay? It's kind of a sad state, but one of the sad secrets and one of the sad truths about recruiting and around hiring is that we probably take about maybe 7 seconds to really review a resume. And let me clarify this a little bit more, because that sounds so depressing. What I've noticed about myself when I put my recruiter hat on is that I will look at a resume and I look first at what have they currently been doing, and is it aligned with what I'm recruiting for. And if I can't see that really quickly or make that connection really quickly, I tend to say that that resume is probably not a fit. So what you need to do is you need to brand yourself for that role, make it very obvious on why you're a fit for that. And then the recruiter will read beyond 7 seconds. They'll actually continue to read for probably 30 seconds to say, okay, yeah, this person is worthy of me interviewing. So your idea here is that you need to get a resume that is branded in such a way that you're quickly capturing people. And then if you're getting lots of interviews because your resume is doing a great job telling your story and there's that alignment, then the final question here is that you should be getting an offer. Hopefully you're getting multiple offers. If not, and you leave a lot of these interviews going, yes, I did it, I got the job, and you're just waiting for the call back, and you put it on social media, and you call your mom, and all that stuff, and then you don't hear back, probably something broke down during the interview. And we do so much interviewing and so many individuals, I can tell you that there are some key areas where lots of people break down, so where the interview just isn't working. And it comes back around to this alignment piece, actually this question number 1 and 2. Do you know what you're good at, and do you know what you want to do? Because when there's not that clarity there, it shows up in the interview, which is why these are such a foundational question. So look at this, figure out where you're answering no, and then take action. Map out some kind of a path of what you're going to do next. Potentially you need to maybe ask yourself, can I really get to where I want to go? Do I need to make an investment of time or money? Meaning like I need to maybe go back to school. I need to get a certification. Maybe I do need to invest in a resume rewrite, or maybe in career coaching. Who knows what it might be? But you need to come up with what this plan is, because you absolutely deserve to have a job that you love. You need to make that happen. We give up the best hours of our day, the daylight hours. I love daylight. We give up the best years of our lives, our prime years, right? The years when we can be doing so many other things. We give up these fabulous times for the work we do. And gosh darn it, we should like it. We should love it, ideally, okay? So if you're in a situation where you do not feel that way, you have to take charge of this and end your suffering. Get some help. So I do want to spend a minute just to share with you how we can help. So we have 4 different packages that we offer. Now these are kind of packaged together here. We can kind of combine some things together here and there depending on what you need. But we do have a fabulous career coaching package that does all these things we talked about today, but in more depth, and it's all one-on-one. And if you're here in Boulder or in Denver or in northern Colorado where we have offices, we even will do that. We love to do it face-to-face. If not face-to-face, we'll do it over Skype. We'll do it over or over Zoom. Like, we want to see you. We want to see what lights you up. We want to see what shuts you down. And this includes that OPQ 32 assessment as well. And then we go through the values, and we go through a bigger definition of what is your why and how can we tie that into the bigger picture. And we can usually lay out a career path that kind of lays out the next 10 to 15 years for you, depending on where it goes. And then on top of that, we also have an amazing resume writing team. So we have certified professional resume writers that are also recruiters, helping rewrite resumes and also write LinkedIn profiles. Because we're recruiters, we have the whole infrastructure in place for making sure your resume is not only written so that it looks great and sounds great, but it also passes the electronic systems, the applicant tracking systems. So we will write and rewrite a resume until our own applicant tracking system makes you pop for the job that you're interested in. And that we do all that before we even hand it over as a draft. We also have a fantastic networking package that's designed for people who really do need to leverage their network, people who are maybe switching into a whole new role in a whole new industry, who need to maybe have their network be thinking about them for a job. If you're doing a full switch, no matter what we do with your resume, it's probably not going to tell your story in a way where there's that alignment, but your network will understand it. And so we put together a great detailed project plan around how you can leverage your network and what you need to do. And then the final package is, of course, the interviewing package. And so we feel pretty, this has been a real interesting package because we've actually been able to almost interview people for real. So we've gotten feedback over the years where, you give us a job description and let us put our recruiter hat on. I mean, we can almost interview you for the first round of interviews. We've heard from some of our clients, like, how did you know they were going to ask those questions? Well, because we do that job too. That's how we know. So anyway, so if you're having struggles and you're not getting offers, but you are getting interviews, then potentially that's something where you need. So now today, because I mentioned at the beginning that I am going to make an offer to you guys if you want to work with us for any reason. So our career alignment program in detail is this, and it concludes the assessment, it includes this ultimate goal, it includes understanding what you really need from a job, the values exercise, and then we put together that career plan, as I mentioned. Now, you may not need all of that, or maybe you just even want to get to know us a little bit better. But I will tell you this, we've helped a lot of people. So get up on our website, go to Yelp, go to Google+, go to Facebook. You'll see reviews on us all over. We really strive, I mean, it's actually one of our values as a company to get results for our clients, and we get a lot of really good results. So I know it's hard to know if you're going to get what you need with just this little bit of time that we've had together, but I want you to feel good about it. And actually, so what we're going to do today is we're actually offering you a bit more of an opportunity to work with us. Now, I know a lot of what I gave you today is stuff that maybe you can do on your own, and if that's the case, great. But I would call it a little bit more like sort of navigating a complicated mountain with a compass versus a GPS. We can help you get there pretty quickly. So it's 3 sessions, and we usually can get them done in about 3 weeks' time for the career coaching. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and share with you real briefly here an offer just that we're doing for you today. So typically this career evaluation program that we have is the 3 sessions. We're offering to you guys today to actually just do 1 session with you face to face and see if you think we're a fit or not. Typically this is something we'd offer at $399, but today we're offering it for $249 if you want. And so to sign up for this, you just need to go to our website, turningthecornerllc.com/leads, L-E-E-D-S, and there is a form. You can fill it out, and we'll get you signed up, get you on the schedule right away. So let me pause and see if there are any questions here before I finally conclude. Heather, are there any questions on the call?
Yes, great. We do have a handful of questions. So we'll begin answering those now, but as a reminder, you can still submit questions through the question panel in your attendee control panel. So please continue sending those our way. Our first question today, do you, Kendra, have additional tools to help figure out the long-term goals? So several people have listed they feel stuck trying to figure out, what truly is their long-term goal.
We do. We have a pretty detailed and facilitated questionnaire we go through with our clients. I only covered a couple of the questions today, but we almost always can get to that sort of long-term, like, what is it that I really want? Briefly, I can share with you a little bit more of like how it breaks out. There's either going to be people who have an end in mind that is like really running an organization, or being in a heavy leadership role that could either be functional, where they're going to build their skill set up over time so that they are, for example, like a really great maybe CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. That would start with a path where maybe they were a copywriter, then they moved into PR, they moved into Marcom, they got to know digital marketing strategies, they became a director of marketing. Like it kind of does this more linear path where things are built up over time. There's also then more of, like, I would say, like a wheelhouse. So like a CEO wheelhouse would be where you have experience in finance, you have experience in HR, you have experience in marketing, you have experience in IT, you have experience in sales, consulting, project management, so on and so forth, management. You're going to fill in more of that wheelhouse as a job, as you think about your job long term. Other people, though, maybe say, like, I really want to just be the best as I can in my field. I don't need to go for that, high-end, ambitious end goal. All 3 of those are completely different career paths, but that's what we're trying to get at, is kind of what do you feel like you really want kind of by the end of one of those 3 options, and then what do we do from there?
Great, thank you. Another question here is, several people have listed about switching careers. So this one individual wrote, I have had a career, but am now looking at switching careers altogether to find something more rewarding. They're afraid to spend a lot of money and time in re-educating themselves to switch careers because they're not sure if they're going to like this new path. How do you get over that step?
Well, see, that's exactly what we do with the career coaching program. So what we would probably do is start with your strengths, and are you hardwired to do that new role? Because if you are hardwired to do that new role, you probably will love it. So then we actually then say, okay, well, here are some barriers to what this might be, and what you need to maybe, what things you're going to have to knock down along the way. Are you willing to do that? That comes back to the values a little bit more. For example, maybe you've got someone who's, 56, 57 years old, maybe a little bit toward more the end of their career, but they do want to make that switch. Does it make sense to invest in a 4-year degree program when by the time you're done, you'll be in your mid-60s? I don't know, maybe. I'm not going to shut that down as a possibility. If that's what you really want to do and that's how you want to end your life, end your career, not your life, right? There's life beyond our jobs, hopefully. But then let's talk through that. But let's talk about it logically. And one of the things I haven't really mentioned here today is that we as a team have probably seen almost every job out there. The combination of myself and the other career coaches on staff, we have such a diverse experience. There's only like 2 categories where we feel like we haven't seen the jobs. That's academia, like I wouldn't know really how to hire a professor. And then the other area is like specialized medicine, like a cardiac surgeon or something along those lines. We don't know those 2 areas, but we have practically seen every other job out there. So we can give you that real logical, like, okay, is this going to work for you or not? We will tell you that. We will give you that hard truth.
Great, thank you. Another question, similar to career transitioning, but this person's been on a career break for 2.5 years to care for their children. How do you get past a quote, what have you currently been doing type of questions?
Okay, so I'm going to give you Kendra's opinion on this. Now, my fellow recruiters will have maybe a different opinion, so you have to use your own common sense with this for this answer. I think you just tell them the truth. You say, I took some time off of work to take care of my family, and it's been great. It's been a wonderful experience, and I'm ready to be back in the market. Here's what I've done to stay current. I still am very active in whatever organization it might be, or if it's technical, like I still take classes or I'm still coding on the side. I've supported my school, whatever it might be. Here's the thing, though, for those of you that do want to get back into the work environment, don't rest on your laurels. Like you got to keep volunteering and keep doing various things to keep yourself current. So, it's also fine to just go stay at home and not do any of that, but it will definitely make it harder to get back into the job market. So make an effort to get out there and volunteer, join an organization, stay with the different, maybe associations that you were a part of before. Stay current, and you should have no problems. It will take you maybe a little bit longer because people can be a little bit picky about that, but it shouldn't be too bad. And there's some really great programs out there right now. They're called return path programs, return path or returnship programs. So instead of an internship, it's a returnship. So Google that. There's a fair number of companies around the country, a lot of them here in Colorado, that are offering like internships for people who've been out of the workforce for a while who want to get back into it. And they actually kind of give you an internship to teach you what you need to know to get back in. So there's some really cool things happening in that space.
Okay, great. And several people have listed that they have a clear idea of 2 specific job directions they would want to go in, and they feel confident that they could do either. So their question to you is along the lines of, what do you recommend them to do to narrow down that search? For example, should they contact people in both of those industries and shadow them?
That would be a great idea. That'd be a great idea to shadow. Informational interviews are always great. That's where you would maybe call up someone who currently has the job that you're interested in, saying, hey, I'm kind of thinking about exploring this. I'd love to sit down and interview you for what you do, what you like about the work, what it entails, and just get to know you a little bit better. And then I'd love some feedback, like some maybe mentoring from you to see if you think maybe it's something I could do or not. So I'd never approach somebody as I need a job. Do you have a job? I want a job. Never do anything like that. But you can definitely reach out and ask for those like informational interviews. That's a great thing to do. I will challenge you that you do still need to kind of narrow it down to one or the other, unless they're really similar though. For example, if I gave you the example of that, I'm a programmer and I'm a recruiter. You just really wouldn't know how to help me, right? You wouldn't know what questions to ask me next because they're so different of a path. Can I do both of those things? I can, yeah. But if I'm on the job hunt, I'm going to target myself more as a recruiter than as a coder.
Great, thank you. Another question is, should your LinkedIn profile match your resume?
You know what? It actually can be bigger than your resume, and that's what I recommend you do. Is I recommend a couple things on your LinkedIn profile, depending on your job situation. So if you're actively on the hunt and everybody knows you're on the hunt, then you can make your profile, very open about like what you've done and what you bring to the table. And you can write it in the first person, I have been doing, or you can take it to the third person, like he is a wonderful contributor. I like it more personally. Kendra's opinion is I like it from the first person. I am a person who does da 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 da. But you can have like real sentences in there, which is so nice. On a resume, you can't have real sentences. It's like a whole other English language that makes a resume what it is. But anyway, so make your LinkedIn profile bigger. Make the titles of the job that you've been doing, not the title that is the exact title you've had at your company, but make it a little bit more relevant to what the market would call that title, and then do like a slash with what your current title really has been, so that it's authentic. It feels like it's within the truth of who you are. But for example, if I were out on the job hunt right now, you would see that my last job at IBM, or one of my jobs, was the program manager for the briefing center. Nobody has any idea what that means. That role that means nothing to the real world. Meant a lot to the people that I was working with at the time, but it means nothing to the real world. It'd be better to call that a program manager for sales support or something along those lines. Like that would be a more realistic title. So have your LinkedIn profile kind of map a little bit closer to what the market would call that, because you'll have recruiters find you faster that way. So yeah, so make your LinkedIn profile bigger and put it in real sentence format is what I would recommend.
Great, thank you. And we have time for a few more questions. So one of them being, this individual has made it to a final interview, but they've also made it to several other final interviews and have not gotten an offer.
Okay.
What would you recommend that this individual could do to set himself apart in that final interview?
Well, I think what you want to do in a final interview is almost start it off with, or hopefully you've maybe even done this in prior interviews, but spend a lot of time understanding what they really need out of this job. Like what is keeping them up at night, and what problem are they trying to solve by bringing in or filling this role? And then what you want to do is you want to then brand yourself against what their needs are, and really focus that in. So you say that you're struggling right now. For example, it's like the question was asked in one of the interviews. So tell me a little bit more about like what's keeping you up at night relative to this job. And if they came back and said, we just haven't felt that right fit, we haven't had the culture fit, or we haven't had somebody that just could like be the go-getter to go run out there and get this work done, and you're that kind of person, then really brand yourself that way. I am somebody who is a go-getter. Use their words even. I am somebody that does not need a lot of direction. All I need to know is the budget, the timeline, and the goal, and then let me go, and I'll go get it done. Like you want to just really hone back in on what problems you're going to be solving for that individual. So if you haven't asked those questions, then ask those questions in the final interview, and then do your best to ad-lib, assuming it's, again, the truth, 100% of the truth of who you are, but bring yourself back to how you're going to solve those specific problems. And hopefully that will help close the deal. Now, there will be times where you are just not the perfect fit for the job. There was an internal candidate that maybe is a little bit more of a known quantity for them. Some of that stuff is just outside your control. Don't stress about that. But when you notice that it's happening over and over and over is when you probably need that help, and potentially we need to talk. So yeah, maybe reach out.
Thank you. And this individual, they are looking at switching job fields and are pretty confident in the direction that they're moving, but are wondering how they could best tailor their resume when they may not have that direct experience in this new field.
Well, you probably are, so what you're going to want to do is take the job description, print it out actually, and then highlight all of the things that you bring to the table. Cross out all the things you don't bring to the table. And then you want to actually go into your resume and do as much as you can of almost paraphrasing what they need, what you bring to the table. Put that into your resume. That's where the tailoring needs to be. But I will tell you for sure that if your current job that you've been doing is not pretty darn close to that role you're applying for, you're probably just not going to get considered. So that's when you're going to really need to leverage your network. You're going to want to do some research on LinkedIn to see if you're connected to somebody who's already in that company, who can say, she would be great at that job. I know she's been doing this other thing, but she actually has that background. You need to talk to her. You're going to really need to leverage your network at that point.
Great, thank you. And we are just about out of time. And Kendra, I wanted to give you a minute to close as well as that we have a few words on our end. We did have a few questions regarding other opportunities with your company, and I want to ensure everyone on the phone call that Kendra's information is in our follow-up that you will receive tomorrow. So Kendra, any closing words on this?
Here's the thing, guys. I really want you to love your job. You deserve this. You absolutely deserve it. So I want you to make it happen. So do something for yourself just now, even now. Go do something for yourself that will make you feel great about what you're doing, even if it's just pausing and going to spend some time with a colleague that brings you joy, whatever it might be, but do something that maybe your future self will definitely thank you for. And I really appreciate your time today. Here's all of our contact information. Please feel free to reach out. Our website, you can always get a 15-minute free call with us just to help us. We can help diagnose your search for you if that's what you feel like you need. And if we can do more to help, we will do everything we can. So thank you so much for your time today. You guys were a wonderful audience. And Heather, thanks again for letting me be part of this.
Yeah, and thank you so much, Kendra, and thank you for everyone for joining us today. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, you will receive an email with Kendra's information that's also shown here on the screen, as well as a link to this recording and a survey among some additional resources from today's presentation. And to view any upcoming webinars and request previous recordings of past webinars, please visit our website at www.colorado.edu/alumni/webinars. And on behalf of the Leeds School of Business, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day, and of course, go Buffs.
Yeah.